It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA.
Good morning, I'm Brian O'Neill on the Newsmaker today. Jamestown Democrat congressional candidate John Plumb. I want to thank you very much for calling in live, John.
Hey, thanks so much, Brian. Happy to do it, and I'm glad to take this chance to talk with you and your listeners.
A campaign question, John. Any debates scheduled yet between you and Congressman Tom Reed?
Well, let me just start with this. First of all, let me introduce myself again to your listeners. John Plumb here. I am running for Congress this year to represent the Southern Tier and all of New York's 23rd District. I grew up in Randolph. My parents worked their entire careers in Jamestown. I got 100 years of family history right here in the Jamestown area. And like really everyone listening to this show, our area has been left behind for too long by D.C. The dysfunction there is really something that I am frustrated with, and I know many other people are too, and it's why I'm running for Congress. Now, that said, you asked about debates. Brian, we don't have any debates scheduled yet, but I am looking forward to a rigorous debate schedule. I think that we need to have a serious discussion of the issues and what we can do to improve the lot of New York's 23rd District in our rural economies. It's a thing that people haven't been focused on, and I'm hoping, frankly, maybe we can do our first debate right here on your show.
That would be terrific. Wondering, on the campaign trail, how are things going?
They're doing great. We're picking up some serious momentum. We've just been listed, there's different lists that come out, but we're listed as one of the top 30 races in the country for a pickup, which means that this is a real shot for us to unseat the incumbent here, Tom Reed, and to make some changes for the district. So we're in great shape.
What are people talking about when they meet with you, John Plumb?
So, Brian, just like the last time I was on your show, the chorus doesn't change. I think the things that people are most concerned about are the economy in our rural areas and how are we going to make it, and what can we do to make sure that if people want to make a life here and they raise a family here, they can afford to do so and don't have to move somewhere else to get a job where they can do that. And I think that is a refrain that I hear everywhere I go, and it's a serious concern.
Talking with congressional candidate John Plumb. John, this is something that, we may have talked about this before, and there are reports that, it's not clear exactly where some people stand on this. Where do you, and not talking about you, where do you stand on Syrian immigration?
So here's the thing. Basically, we need to make sure we're keeping the country safe, right? I've been working to keep the country safe my entire life. I have served as a Navy submarine officer. I've got over 22 years in the Navy. I have served in the Pentagon and even on the National Security Council. I've devoted my life to this. And keeping the country safe is one of the foremost responsibilities of our government. On immigration specifically, I think that if immigrants can be properly vetted and screened appropriately, then and we can keep the country safe that way, then we should have processes to allow them in. I would like to point out here, since you've offered, is that my opponent, Tom Reed, has actually voted to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. That is not working to keep the country safe. That is putting politics far ahead of the safety of our citizens.
On gun control, Governor Cuomo is for it, and he got some gun control here in New York State early in 2013 passed. Obama seems to have wanted more, but has not pushed for it as much as some on the left thought or hoped he would. Your thoughts on gun control, John Plumb?
Yeah, Brian, so I've been around guns and firearms almost my entire life, starting with BB guns. In the military, I've shot any number of weapons. I am a hunter. I got a deer this year, as a matter of fact. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And so I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment and protecting people's rights to bear arms. Now, at the same time, we have got to find ways to keep guns out of the hands of terrorists. We got to fight, or potential terrorists, and we got to find the ways to keep guns out of the hands of the dangerously mentally ill. I don't think there's really any question that those sound like good ideas. I have many friends who have large numbers of weapons in their houses who are responsible gun owners, and I think the point is responsible gun owners want to be left alone, but we need to make sure that we're also keeping our people safe.
On the topic of Wall Street, and as you know, Wall Street's been a big issue between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in this campaign season. Any thoughts on Wall Street and, Wall Street contributors, that whole topic that Bernie Sanders has brought to the attention of the people?
Well, Wall Street really is a big issue, and I think it's an important one to be raised. I don't think we have to go too far back to remember that the recklessness of some bad actors in Wall Street are what led us to this huge recession as President Obama was taking office. And while Wall Street has recovered, and they're doing just fine and adding jobs, our rural communities are still left behind. So we have this problem where Congress isn't doing anything to address that issue. They were asleep at the switch when Wall Street was playing its games, and now we're the ones left paying for it. And it's one more reason that I'm running.
Talking with John Plumb, candidate for Congress on the Democrat side, running against Republican Congressman Tom Reed of Corning. On climate change and national defense, we spoke with you on that in, I believe, the last interview. Summing up what you said, you believe that something needs to be done on climate change. On the topic of defense, you said that sending troops overseas should be the last option, not the first. On the deficit and the budget, your take on how that's being handled by the president and Congress during the Obama administration, or you can go back farther and if you'd like, and compare Obama with the George W. Bush administration on the budget and the deficit. Your thoughts there, John Plumb?
Brian, let me start with the first part of that. Thank you. On climate change and national defense, let me just say that as a national security guy, which is in my core, all right, I actually view climate instability as a national security challenge for the United States. It causes population flows due to drought or due to displaced people as ice melts or as coastlines rise. It's causing us to have to worry about an extended battlefront, if you will, in the Arctic. As the Arctic melts, and the concerns of the U.S. Navy and the Department of Defense over how to address that area now that that's going to be an open pathway for commerce and for, frankly, warships. And so it's a problem that we need to address, and the failure of the United States to lead squarely on this issue lies solely on the U.S. Congress. On this second question of yours about the deficit and the budget, so if you look at how history has played out, really, over the last three presidents, under Bill Clinton, we actually turned a deficit into a surplus. And then under President George W. Bush, over just tremendously reckless spending, we turned a surplus into a very big deficit that caused a recession. Under President Obama, we're clawing our way back out of that deficit. But at the same time, like everything else, Congress has turned this into another political football instead of trying to make real changes and bring help to areas like New York's 23rd.
On the race for president, your thoughts on the Nevada results from last night in the Republican caucus there? Trump first, Rubio came in second place, Senator Ted Cruz came in third. How did you think that worked out, John Plumb?
Well, it's a little surprising, I think, to see that Trump is actually gaining momentum. So I think he came in at 45%, so I believe this will be maybe his biggest win. But the fact is, I think it shows tremendous frustration with the way D.C. operates right now, and I think people that are supporting Trump are being vocal about their frustration and anger, and they're channeling that with votes for him. So I'm watching this unfold, as you are and we all are, but he really has a head of steam right now. It's something.
On the Democrat side, you've got Hillary Clinton way ahead of Democrat Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont in the numbers of delegates. New York Times reports that it's Hillary 502 delegates, Bernie Sanders 70 delegates. Hillary is a lot closer, obviously, to the about 2,400 delegates needed for the Democrat nomination. John Plumb, do you have a favorite there in the race, Bernie or Hillary? Are you saying that yet?
Well, you'll be the first to ask me this live, but I do have a favorite. Let me start by this. I don't really follow the electoral math. I think we have a process in place in the Democratic Party to determine who is going to be our nominee, and that still has quite a bit of time to play out to make that decision, and so we're going to let that play forward. I will say Senator Sanders is bringing a very important voice to this race. I think his efforts to hold Wall Street accountable are very important, and I think He is doing great things for the race. That said, for me personally, I prefer Hillary Clinton because she was a senator from New York State. She did a great job here as a senator. I think New York's 23rd district in the Southern Tier would benefit greatly from a president that knows our small towns and communities, knows where Hornell is, knows where Jamestown is, and so that is kind of my favorite. And I think she would do a great job for our area if she becomes president.
By the way, that case against Hillary Clinton over the email and the server situation keeps going forward. The latest is that the judge is reportedly threatening Hillary Clinton with a subpoena. Secretary of State John Kerry made a point saying that the case against Hillary Clinton is slowing things down at the State Department, taking up too much of diplomats' time. John Plumb, any reaction to what John Kerry says there?
Well, Brian, I think we have, in this instance, one more case of Congress doing political theater over actually trying to get work done. On the email issue, I think it's very clear to me, and I think to everyone, using a private server was not a good idea. That said, there's been multiple investigations with no wrongdoing found. It turns out Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell even used private emails from time to time, and they've had no wrongdoing found there either. I think it's been admitted by Republican Party leadership in the Congress that this is just a political game at this point, and the fact is it's distracting from getting real work done. Both the Congress ought to be doing real work, and frankly the State Department has actual work to do, and instead Congress is wasting millions of dollars as we continue to pursue this.
Back to the race for the White House. On the Republican side, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas says that he would deport all 12 million illegals or undocumented immigrants, depending on how you say it. Trump is well ahead of Cruz right now, and Trump has said similar things. Word is, though, that Republicans in Washington, the establishment, they really don't like Trump and might derail Trump at the convention this summer. Do you see something like that happening?
That is an interesting question about how Trump candidacy might be upended. I don't know. That's a problem for the Republican Party to decide, and frankly a problem for the Republican voters to decide as well, not just their party leadership. And I think we just have to watch this unfold. I can't speak with any credibility towards what might happen in that case, but I would hope that whatever the voters choose is the solution to the nomination for the party.
We're talking with Jamestown candidate John Plumb, who's running against Congressman Tom Reed of Corning. We'll be back on Newsmaker in just a moment. Right now, we break for Fox News.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Donald Trump takes Nevada.
This is an amazing night, and, I love the country.
Last night's caucus is his third straight win in the contest for the GOP nomination. In a tight race for second place last night, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, who insists,
I'm the person that can unite this party. I'm the person that can grow this party, and that's why we're going to be the one that gives us the best chance to win in November.
And Cruz telling his supporters,
the only campaign that has beaten Donald Trump and the only campaign that can beat Donald Trump is this campaign.
At least 3 people are dead in Louisiana and Mississippi after a powerful storm system that spawned tornadoes in Gulf Coast states. And the Government Accountability Office putting out a report on the president's signature healthcare program. Its investigators saying the administration's taken a passive approach to identifying potential fraud. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The Newsmaker Show. This is AM 1480 WLEA.
Back on Newsmaker, Brian O'Neill with you. We're on live today on the phone with Democrat congressional candidate John Plumb, was from the Jamestown area. John, something Donald Trump said recently is that considering that the enemy is cutting off heads, that Trump, does not have a big problem with waterboarding. John, you have a big military background. Your thoughts on torture as a way of getting information?
Brian, I've been in the Navy and the Navy Reserves for over 20 years. I have many friends and family members who have or continue to serve in the military. And 2 things on your question about torture. The first thing is this. Anytime a leading figure in the United States of America speaks in favor of torture, that puts our military men and women at risk. It puts my friends at risk, and it is irresponsible, and it is un-American. And the second thing I will say, if you don't believe me, John McCain should be the leading authority on torture and its effects and whether it works or not. That man is an American hero, and he is against it, and I think that Donald Trump's language on this is thoroughly irresponsible.
You know, you talk about John McCain. There's a man who has problems, I believe, walking and sitting just from his injuries in the Vietnam War when he was at what was it called, the Hanoi Hilton?
Yes.
Back to congressional campaign issues. Congressman Tom Reed, your opponent, wondering what's the biggest disagreement you have with Congressman Reed?
We have a fundamental disagreement between Congressman Tom Reed and myself on what a member of Congress is supposed to do. Congressman Reed believes that a member of Congress is supposed to go to D.C. and play D.C. political party games and just do what his masters tell him from the political party side, and the district suffers as a result. I believe that a member of Congress is supposed to carry representation to D.C. and work to make the district better. And the difference is that under Tom Reed for the last 5 or 6 years now, this district has been increasingly left behind. We need to change it. We need to fix it, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
Back to the issues, John Plumb, where do you stand on free trade?
On free trade, you don't have to be an expert to know that free trade hurts rural economies that rely on manufacturing. Any economist will tell you this with their salt. It is common knowledge, and the fact is New York's southern tier and the 23rd District is a rural economy that relies on manufacturing. So I am against a free trade deal. I have been against it from the beginning. I will say that Tom Reed has never seen a free trade deal he didn't like. He has voted for every single free trade deal that has ever come across his desk. He was all for the free trade deal with the Pacific Partnership until I entered the race. And only because I've entered the race and now people are watching has he suddenly decided that perhaps he's against it. And I want you to know that is because he is worried about me. It is not because he is worried about the district.
We had in the news yesterday that Governor Andrew Cuomo is supporting a $15 an hour minimum wage and a 12-week paid family leave. Reed opposes both of those. Your thoughts on $15 minimum wage per hour and the 12-week paid family leave that Governor Andrew Cuomo is pushing that the congressman is opposed to?
So I don't have the exact specifics of the governor's proposal. I will say that the minimum wage should be one that people can get by on, and I think we are seeing over and over that it is not. Specific numbers are harder to lock down, I think, and it also involves the timeline over how long would you take to ramp up a minimum wage to get to that kind of point. So I'd want to see the specifics on that. On paid family leave, I will say clearly paid family leave is an issue that should be very important. We want to make sure that people can stay in the workforce and raise a family. I think it becomes a bit of a budget question as to how many weeks are correct. The military is struggling with the same question right now. So let me do a little research on that and get back to you on specifics.
Sure thing, sure thing. On the topic of education, Bernie Sanders is getting a lot of mileage on his promises of free college educations. And on your campaign website, you talk about making college affordable. Wondering if you could tell us where you stand, the John Plumb view compared to what Bernie Sanders has been saying on college education.
Well, thanks, Brian. We do need to make college affordable for everyone that wants to go, right? First of all, not everyone wants to go to college, but if you do, I think it should be affordable. That is different than free, however. I don't think taxpayers should be paying for those who are wealthy or those who can afford college shouldn't be paying for their college education. My worldview is what you'd like to have is a situation where anyone that wants to go to college can emerge on the other end with a reasonable debt load, something they can pay off reasonably, and something that doesn't saddle them with so much debt that they have to struggle to get out from that just at the beginning of their careers.
And down to just a couple of minutes, wondering, was there anything I did not bring up, John Plumb, that you'd like to talk about?
Well, Brian, I'd just like to say thank you so much for having me on your show again. You know, I have over 100 years of family history out here in Western New York in the Jamestown area, and I think this district, this area is beautiful. We all love it, even though at least this morning it's pouring rain. It's a beautiful place to live, and we need to work to find ways to make sure that people can raise their families here and not worry that their kids always have to move away just to have a job. And I think that's the goal. We've been left behind for too long. I'm planning to change that in Congress by working tirelessly to improve our district. And I would love the support of all your listeners, and I look forward to talking with you again. So thanks so much, Brian.
John Plumb, always great having you on the Newsmaker Show, 5 minutes before 9. We'll be back in just a moment, and thanks for joining us, John Plumb.